In 1969, 13 May, actually it's a third day after Malaysia national election. So this is the first time the major party, they lost a lot of votes. And then at that night, they raised up riots at Kuala Lumpur. Many of the community, especially Chinese community and also Indian community, they kill and injure, some of them missing until today. And at the same time, the Prime Minister, the first time after our Malaysia independence, this is the first time declared the martial law at that night. So it's for us, it's a darkest history in Malaysia history until today. I've been doing a lot of history research since 2005. So in 2009, I found this place is a mass grave. We call it 13 May barrier somewhere in Kuala Lumpur. At that time, I found that all the victims, when the tragedy happened until today, their family is still searching where they bury in which place in Kuala Lumpur. So this burial site for me is a very important place for this history. So from that day, I decide go there every year in 13 May, waiting for the family, because this is the moment they will be visit there, memory for them. So I found that when I wait them to come, so I will be interview them to get more details what happened at that night. So after 9 years, I will be searching for this barrier. So in 2018, I decided to do a short film. It's called Cemetery of Courtesy. And then in 2020, it's become a long film. And I think for me, it's a very important character. It's combined all the victims' family, oral history. We combine it into one person. So I'm not a single person. She's like all the victims' family that represent how they depressed almost half decades. And then because this history in Malaysia is still not revealed until today, how many injured, missing, is still a very big question mark. 13 May tragedy for us as a Malaysian is a white terror until today, especially for my parents. They are afraid to talk about it. So when I chose this history site into my film, I chose telling a story in one day. They are trapped in 1969, 13 May, and also 2018. When I doing a lot of research, and I found a lot of oral details. For example, like the recording from that night, from the radio broadcast, the martial law, when the Prime Minister announced the martial law, and also the film. It's the first film from our Prime Minister in 1968, the Raja Bersiong. It's the King Thanks, but very, very unique. The film now it's from Singapore archive. It's not Malaysia archive. Yeah, and then we found a lot of the costume inside the film. It's not the modern style. We found it from 1960, from the opera troupe. We bought it. Some bought it and borrowed it, and we put into our film. So you can see a lot of details inside the film. We try to make it bring the people of Malaysia and over the world back to the 1916. They are trapped in the darkest history. Yeah. I'm big fans of director WU YUE. I love his film very much. And during my university's time, I write a lot of theses about Ozu film, like Tokyo Story. Yeah. So when I decide to making film, my camera eyes, I choose like Ozu. Camera angles is very low. And another reason I use very low angle just because my family, because my father, he's a medium. And in Southeast Asia beliefs, all the humankind in this world, they have their eyes and feeling. So like my first film and second film, all the human beings, no matter they are insect, anything, or God, they have their own eye view. It's very low. So I choose very low angle to see the people in this world, what happened in one night or a long period. So this is why I choose low angle camera to see this world. For example, some of the angle you can see is a fixed angle and suddenly move. It's just like the movement of the god, of the local safeguarding god, because they have their god house very small outside the house. So every movement is about god and also human being and also insects. Something is very low angle.